Hi, fourth grade. How are you? So you'll notice that I'm not in my basement right now, and I probably won't be going back there for a while. And I'll tell you a story why. I had to share it with you all. So on Friday, we had some people come to our house, and I'm sure if you live in a house, your parents might have the same kind of service come, but they come about every other month, and they just check to make sure you don't have termites. There's no kind of pest getting into your house. And so I was outside playing with Gavin and Olivia, and the very nice man that was there, he was looking on the outside of our house, and he goes, "Ma'am, do you know that you have evidence of mice?" And I said, "Oh, no, I did not know that." And he was like, "Oh, yeah, they're getting in like right here, and they're probably getting down into your basement." And I said, "Oh, sir," I was like, "I'm sorry. I don't do rodents. I don't do mice. So we need to get this taken care of. So whatever we need to do, that's fine." And we haven't seen any down there, but I'm not going down there for a while. But then the nice man we kept having a conversation together, and he was like, "Oh, so you don't like rodents?" And I was like, "Oh no, I don't like mice. I don't like rats. Squirrels can be scary if they get too close." And he was like, "Oh, well, I was just down in Cincinnati, and I was at a house, and they had a rat problem, and those rats were the size of cats. Cats. So the cat that some of you have as pet, there's rats that size down in Cincinnati, which is not that far. So I won't be going to Cincinnati for a while either. I wouldn't be anyway, but I'm really not going to now." So I hate to share that little story with you. So I'm in one of my guest bedrooms, and this is also a room that Guinness likes to hang out in. So he might pop in and say hi because I'm on the bed that he likes to lay on. So I hope you all been doing well. I miss you very much, but I'm very excited because today officially starts our next reading unit, and it is my favorite topic to read about, to talk about, to teach. So I always find time during this time of the year to squeeze in this topic because I just think it's so interesting. And I know you all are going to learn a lot and maybe even become interested in it also. But I am obsessed with the Titanic. I love it so much. I just think it's so interesting. I love reading books about it. I love reading stories and facts about it. It's just my topic. I think we all have topics that we enjoy learning about and reading about. Maybe yours is Harry Potter, or maybe you really like history, fantasy and fairy tales, mythology, whatever your topic is. The Titanic is my topic, and I just love teaching it. So I started doing a Titanic unit back in 2012 because there was a lot of activities and celebrations. Not really celebrations, but things to do because it was the 100-year anniversary. And I thought, I love the Titanic so much. Why not teach a unit during this 100-year anniversary of its sinking? And ever since 2012, I've always done a Titanic unit. But I feel I change it every year, but I felt like this year would have been the best year to do it. And I was so excited, and I still am excited, but it can't go as planned because obviously we're not together. So hopefully we'll be able to get together before the end of the school year. But this is pretty much our last reading unit and our last chapter book that we're going to be reading. The reason why I say it was going to be the best year is because I found 4 really good books that I couldn't decide what book I wanted you to read. And so I met with Mrs. Guyman about it, and she was like, if you want to, why not let them pick what book they want to read? And I thought that was a really cool idea. So I had 4 books that you would have been able to choose for our Titanic unit to read. And it was going to be really cool. I had never done something like this before, but I was willing to give it a try. But unfortunately, we can't do that because we're not together. I can't check in with you every day like I would in the classroom. But I did pick the book that I want all of us to read together. So in your take-home packet that your parents picked up a couple weeks ago, you should have a copy of the I Survived the Sinking of the Titanic. We are going to read this book for our Titanic unit. And you might be thinking, oh, I've already read that book. And I know some of you had. The I Survived series is a very popular series to read. But when you read a book for a leisure book, it's a lot different than reading it for a book of study. So if you've read it before, that's great, but you are going to reread it. So I don't want you to think that you don't need to read the book again, because I do want you to. And sometimes I love rereading books because sometimes you pick up on things that you missed, or you look at things a lot differently than the first time you read them. So maybe that will happen to you. I am going to have an optional video for you to watch after this one, and I want to go over the other 3 books that I would have had you choose from, just in case one interests you, or if you've been hopefully having a little extra time reading each day, maybe you can order them, or you can, I know the website Audible, which is the audiobook website, they are doing free subscriptions during school closures right now. And I have not looked into it, but if you're not signed up for that website, you can look into it and see if you can get a free subscription. I don't know if the 3 books that I picked are going to be part of the free subscription, but that's something you could do. Or your parents can order it for you if they say that it's okay. I've been doing a lot of Amazon shopping lately since I can't go out into the stores. So you can add that to your next Amazon purchase. Okay, so that will be an optional video for you to watch if you're interested in those 3 books. You don't have to watch it if you don't want to. Okay, so the first activity that you're going to be doing today is something called a KWL chart. So what I want you to do, if you don't have your 5-subject notebook and a pencil with you, I want you to go ahead and pause this video, go get your 5-subject notebook, and you're going to be in the reading notes section. So go ahead and pause the video if you need to, and go to your reading notes section. So what you're going to do, I don't know if you've ever done a KWL chart before, but it's a good activity to do at the beginning of a unit of study, just to kind of see what you know and to kind of get your brain thinking about some things that you want to know. So you're going to need 3 pages in your reading notes section. On the first page, I want you to write at the top what I know. So that's the K part of the KWL chart. So that should be at the top. Go ahead and pause the video if you want to give yourself some time to label. The next page, I want you to write what I want to know. So that's the W part of the KWL. You're going to be doing these first 2 pages today. And then the last page is what I learned, and that's the L part of the KWL chart. So obviously we can't do this page today because we haven't learned anything yet, but we're going to be doing this page at the end of our unit and hopefully getting some of those questions that you had answered on this page. Okay, so what I want you to do, once you get all your pages labeled, you're going to go to the first page, the what I know part, and this KWL chart is just on the Titanic. So on this page, write what you know already about the Titanic. What was it? What happened to it? Any fun facts you know? Anything that you already have in your brain on the Titanic, I want you to write it on this page. And you can just do it in notes. You don't need to write a paragraph for it. And if you're thinking, Mrs. Smith, I have no idea what the Titanic is, I have nothing to put on this page, that's fine. Just write what you know. You are not allowed to look anything up or Google anything during this time. You already have to have it in your brain. So if you're like, oh, I know a fun fact, but I just don't remember what it is, you're not allowed to look it up. Has to be already in your brain, okay? So give yourself some time. What I know, it could be 5 minutes, it could be 10, it could 2, it could be, there's not really a time limit. So however long it takes you, that's fine. And then go to your next page and write down some questions that you have. What I want to know. If you're curious about something, or if you don't know a whole lot, just give yourself some time to put some questions down of some things that you would like to learn about during our Titanic unit. Okay, and then what I want you to do, I would like to know some things that you're curious about, because if you're really curious about a certain topic of the Titanic, then I want to make sure that we hopefully cover that in some of our activities that we do, or when we read our book. So I do want everyone to comment on this video once you're finished watching it, and just give me one. If you have a couple of questions, that's fine. But I do want to know some things that you're curious about. So hopefully we can get some of your questions answered during our Titanic unit. So make sure you do that. You do not need to comment on anyone else's comment unless you want to, but I just want to know something that you're curious about with our Titanic unit that we're getting ready to start. And then obviously, like I said, we'll save this one for the end. Okay. So if you need to pause the video, if you have not done that yet, go ahead and pause the video so you can go ahead and do your K and your W part of your KWL chart. And because there are some things that I do want you to know before we go into our unit after spring break to kind of get into your brain. So go ahead and pause the video, get your 2 sections finished, and then join me when you're finished. So go ahead and pause it. Welcome back. Okay, so go back to your what I know. And if this page is filled up, if you need to go to a separate page, that's fine. But like I said, there are some things that I want you to know that maybe you don't know already, but just some things that I want you to know before we start, especially reading the book that we have and talking about the Titanic. So the first thing I want you to know about it, and make sure if you don't have it in your, if you didn't write it down on this page, I do want you to go ahead and add all this. Even if it's not something you already know, just go ahead and put it on that page. So the first thing I want you to know is that it was a ship. If you put boat or vessel, that's fine. Any word that is a synonym for ship is fine. It was a very large ship. During its time, it was the largest man-made object of its time, and it was very fancy and very luxurious. And if you were on it, it was called the Ship of Dreams, and that's a nickname that it had because it was just a magnificent sight to see. So make sure, if you didn't know at all what the Titanic was, make sure you know that it was a ship. Okay. The next thing I want you to know is the setting of this whole historical event is 1912. So the year that we're going to kind of time travel back to is 1912. So if you didn't have that, add that to your notebook, 1912. Long time ago. Unsinkable. The Titanic, before it sank, was considered an unsinkable ship. People did not think that it would sink. And we'll do a little activity about why people thought this after spring break, and I'll explain why people thought that. So unfortunately, people were wrong because it did sink. So it's not unsinkable. But it was considered unsinkable by many, many, many people, especially the passengers, thought they were on an unsinkable ship. You might not have known this, but it was on its maiden voyage. So that means that it had never set sail before. It was brand new. No passenger had ever sailed in it. And unfortunately, it did not sail again. Maiden voyage, first voyage. So you cannot talk about the Titanic without talking about the 3 classes. So if you were a passenger, you were either part of first, second, or third class. We talked about third class a lot when we read The Orphan of Ellis Island. Do you remember what the third class is also called? Do you remember? If you said steerage, very good job. So we're actually going to do some activities just to learn what these 3 classes were like before we read our book, because you can't, like I said, you can't talk about the Titanic without talking about the difference between first, second, and third class. Okay, so make sure you have this on your page 2. You probably have this down. I put them together because they go together. It hit an iceberg in the Atlantic Ocean. Oh, I don't have Atlantic Ocean on a card. That'd be a good thing to have. If you put Atlantic Ocean down, good job. It hit an iceberg, and because of that, it sank. So, like I said, it was considered unsinkable, but it's not. It was not, unfortunately. Okay. So because it was sinking, and because people thought it was unsinkable, they did not have enough lifeboats for all the passengers on board. And because of this, the captain ordered women and children first into the lifeboats. So we'll talk about this a lot too during our unit. But I want you to know that there were not enough lifeboats on board for every single passenger. 2 more that I want you to know. The Carpathia. This is the name of a ship. So the passengers that were able to get into a lifeboat when it was sinking, and they witnessed the Titanic sink, while they were waiting to be rescued and waiting for help, the Carpathia is another ship that came and rescued all of the people that were in the lifeboats. So I do want you to know the name of this ship, because we will talk about it again. And then the last thing, it was found at the bottom of the ocean in 1985. So I don't want you to think that people didn't know where it was or that it sank, but in 1912, they just didn't have the technology to go out into the ocean and find it. But in 1985, a scientist did find the sinking or the remains of what was left of the Titanic at the bottom of the ocean. So make sure you know that it has been found. Okay? So make sure you have those things. So this was your reading activity for today. So you are finished reading and with your reading activity, unless you want to watch the optional video. You're welcome to do that. So for writing today, I do want you to get to a good stopping point with your kindness story before spring break, because we're going to be taking almost 2 weeks off with our writing, and I do want you just to get to that good stopping point. So if you're in the middle of a part, or if you're really trying to figure something out of where your story goes, try to get that figured out and finished today. That way when we come back from spring break, you are ready to move on and continue it. If you want me to read your story, I've read everyone's stories at least once. Some of you, I'm on my second round of checking in and seeing how you're doing. If you want me to read your story during spring break, just let me know, and I'd be happy to pop in and see how you're doing. I'm really enjoying your stories. You are doing a really good job. So a lot of you are asking in the Zoom meetings that I had last week, when is this due? And since we're not together in the classroom, I can't really give you a due date for it. So it will really just be due whenever you get finished with it. I know some of you have sent me some emails saying I'm getting close or I'm finished. That's fine. If you get finished after spring break, that's fine too. It's just wherever you are, because I know some of you have been working on a little bit extra than you would in the classroom. So whenever you get finished with it is fine. But if you do get finished, or if you feel like you're ready for that next step, I will explain that after spring break. Okay? So just make sure you spend about 10-15 minutes today just getting to that good stopping point before we have spring break. So I hope you all have a good spring break. I know that it's not the spring break that a lot of us had planned. I know I had to cancel my spring break plans. My husband and I were going to go to Boston, and we had to cancel those. So if your spring break plans got canceled, I'm sorry, but it looks like we're supposed to have some good weather. So I hope we can get outside and enjoy some fresh air and sunshine. So make the most of it, and I will see you back here in a couple of weeks. Enjoy your time off, and happy Easter. Have some good family time, and I will see you all very soon. Bye.